Wouldn't you agree that being the best is a pleasant feeling? Of course, many of you would. But what to do when the desire to be the best turns into an obsession? Believe me, I know how it feels to cry your eyes out at night trying to perfect some presentation, simultaneously promising yourself not to worry about it anymore, and the next morning feeling on top of the world, getting back into the swings of things because you got a plus and your teacher praised you. But at what cost? On one hand, deal with mental breakdowns and self-esteem problems, and on the other, have higher level of willingness and conscientiousness. So, why does it happen? Let me introduce someone. This is Mr. Inner Critic. We all know him, right? The guest of honor in all our thoughts before we go to sleep. The snob who makes us replay dialogues in our head and think, I should have said this or that. But at the same time, the one who makes us improve ourselves. If you thought that's all we have, don't trick yourself. There is another really vigorous one. I call him the achiever, who strives us to be better and pushes to work more. Thanks to him, we might get burned out or become a CEO at the same time. Of course, the extent of their involvement in our life is very individual. But what is more important, they both can trigger the appearance of the third friend, the people pleaser, who can help us to create a nice and artificial version of ourselves when it's needed. We all like nice people so much, don't we? Somehow they all manage to get along in our head and do so successfully. But sometimes breakdown happens, and the passion of success goes beyond any limits. In other words, for some people, Mr. Inner Critic, the achiever, and the people pleaser have grown to a level that cannot be tolerated. This is the exact moment of transformation into a person with a straight A student syndrome. But what are those breakdowns? What activates them in the first place, and what feeds them later? So there are internal and external factors. The first ones, like family, make sense when your parents, for example, cared a lot about your mark at school or compared you a lot with others. Therefore, you grow with inappropriately instilled habits, like being over-responsible. Then, as soon as we enter a new community, like school, appears another factor, society. Oh, we all know how school works, we get it, right? But let me show you one clear example. Try to remember, how often have you heard those scary fairy tales from elder people about low-paid, miserable, and insignificant job which you might get if you don't study well? I guess the answer is not one or never. It might sound funny, but not for a child who studied well in pain of becoming that unsuccessful and poor ones who studied badly. Clearly, this example shows us two problems that a child might face when evaluating their abilities. In case if you haven't figured it out by now, I am the kind of person who'll do everything for everyone in the team so as not to lose. So, since I was a child, everyone had been telling me that I have to be first and best, and somehow I'd been managing to meet those requirements as my people pleaser woke up. But unfortunately, it would have been difficult for me to separate my desire from the desire of those around me at that time. And honestly, I like to be the first. But we can't change our family members or the people around us. Instead, we can change our mindset and learn how to accept ourselves, even if it means not being number one. So, first of all, resign yourself to the fact that you have it. I know that most of you have heard such cliches, and I know that it's hard to just do it, so I suggest you to start with these steps. First of all, try to recognize moments of rumination or consistent patterns, such as competition at school or a project, etc. It can be particular to everyone. Then, when it happens, try to distance. Take some time to think. Maybe ask yourself, is there something really important in that thing that I have to be so worried about this right now? Is it worth my emotional involvement? Then, the hardest part, reflection. Now it's time for you to put all your thoughts together and change the final move based on your answers. If it isn't worth your involvement, then maybe it's better to just do what you can and don't try to assess what you could do. Let me tell you a story. Last time when I was working in team, it was so stressful. I felt extremely responsible not only for the project we were working on, but also for the tasks of others. And I thought like, God, another round of vicious circle. Then, thanks to the amount of effort I put into changing my behavior, I just took some time out, shifted my thoughts to almost nothing, and then came back. And voila, I changed the approach to the teamwork thanks to this little gap to think. This is what I call a successful reflection. Now, I had bad news for you. Due to our own struggle, we often demand others to be achievers and best at everything. We might already become those people who unconsciously trigger the appearance of our all three friends in the life of a person we care about. And as much as I'm embarrassed and ashamed right now, I want to be honest here. This is how I behaved for long enough to cause great harm to both them and myself. But what's more important, I found a way out. So rather than demanding others to meet your criteria, try to be thankful for any help or just existence in your life. Ask yourself, is there something else important in them besides their achievements? Why are we friends at last? This is how you can stop spreading this poisonous notion of love for something. And after all of that, you might ask yourself, when I do, what comes next? Honestly, this path is hard. It demands changing the attitude, so it takes a lot of time. But you're not alone. I'm on it too. Apart from a struggle, I'm enjoying full, almost uncomplicated life. So work, work, and work. And I know that it's hard to not make a big deal of a problem. And I know that it's difficult not to stress out because of a bad grade. But it's not the end of the world. Do your best to implement new techniques to change the approach, because it will eventually change your lifestyle. And remember that being the best isn't always the best option. Thank you.